controversial subjects with the facts can be tense, but we are a science here to make things make sense.
'Tis the season.
For sunscreen.
It is, though. I feel like I'm going through buckets of the stuff.
And I have recently feel like I've kind of not changed my opinion about sunscreen. I'm going to bury the lead here, so everyone has to stick around and find out what did I change my opinion about. But this year, I think I've had a bit of a personal revelation with my relationship to sunscreen and the sun, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
Wow. Things are good for you. You're having new epiphanies about the sun.
Yes. One of the most famous stars as we know them.
I've never liked the sun. Wow, I really am.
They're
sad.
so overrated.
There's one, the sun. Or you mean all stars?
I said they are.
Oh, like as in gender non-binary.
Well, what do you want me to say? How else would I say that?
They are. I thought you were going to. It's. The sun's in it.
Well, I was calling it a person. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Like
no,
I was playing on the word star. Okay?
But then, this
like
is
they are
the
stars.
best fact that everyone needs to open your ears right now, because they are giving you a sunburn because oh my god, let me find it here because it's so worth knowing. But every 10 trillionth of a suntan that you get is from photons from stars outside of our galaxy.
I love that.
Isn't that so cool?
That's so cool.
So it's like they are burning you, as in all
their
the stars.
photons make it to Earth.
Yeah.
Less
But they're
lost.
so weak. And we're going to be talking today about the photons coming from our El Sol, Duolingo, the sun. And how it is like the one that is causing the sunburn. Obviously, mostly.
Well, so then where do we start with?
What a sunburn is.
Is it in French la soleil?
Oh, wow. I just have given, it's so weird because we're in bilingual French country, and whenever I see French, I'm like, sorry, girl, gave up on you.
Meanwhile,
I'm
you're
trying
speaking
Spanish. There's just more places that speak Spanish. Okay,
That's
we're not talking about that. We're talking
okay.
about sun. But sun is in lots of places where people speak Spanish.
And where people want to go.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone's trying to like travel to sun vacations.
Are you wanting me to explain it?
Yes.
Okay. So another really cool fact, a photon from in the middle of the sun can take 100,000 years to bump its way out to the surface and then shoot to Earth.
Oh, really?
So when a
Whoa.
photon is hitting you
It could be
from the sun, it could be over 100,000 years old.
Wow. 100,000?
100,000 years to nudge itself to the surface. And then it takes about 8 minutes and 17 seconds to hit your skin.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all about photons of light. So this stuff's all really freaking cool. But we're actually talking today about the UV light that hits your skin, which you cannot see. Mm-hmm. Although visible light, which people in the past used to say didn't matter for your skin, now they think it does. And when we talk about sunscreens, some of the sunscreens will be like, we prevent visible light.
Whoa. What does that mean then?
Because we've only ever been talking about UVA, UVB, which is like within the nanometers.
But I'm like, when you wear visible light spectrum sunscreen, are you visible?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
yeah, you are. No, it's the visible light from the sun that's hitting you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's happening to it?
Well, no, I see what you mean. It's getting reflected off the sunscreen now, not your skin.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, I guess most of it does get reflected, but then like I'm just thinking of like obviously how like the color blue is when it's like absorbing everything but blue, and blue is coming back, right?
Yeah.
And then I was just like, if it's blocking
that is
the visible spectrum, would everyone look grayscale?
Yeah, no, that's not how it works. It's reflecting off the sunscreen. But it is one of the sunscreens that they're worried because it will make your skin really white when you use the sunscreens that protect against visible light. It leaves more of whiteness on your face because of what you're saying, and then people don't like it because
It's like
it
so
looks
visible.
bad.
Yeah.
Which I am like when I'm at the beach, I'm like nerd alert because I literally look like a ghost, and I'm just like it's so sad that it's unattractive.
No, and you know what happens to you when you put sunscreen on? Because we so often when we're like going to the beach have biked, and I feel like you're sweaty. And
No,
so it's
I
like,
also swim. It's also I swim.
Oh, it's after you're swimming too.
Because
You're,
no
like,
one swims in the
wet.
lake, and then I'm always soaking wet and
And
dripping
so when you
milk.
try to put sunscreen on wet, it leaves like streaks and stuff.
yeah.
So you always do have just
I look
like,
milky.
marks all over
Yeah,
you.
and there's nothing.
I look milky.
I look like I've been like, it's like, hey, what's up? It's like, that guy's milky. Like, that's weird. That's gross. He looks sick. Looks like there's discharge
Oh,
from
it'd be
me.
so funny watching you like be single. Like obviously you
Like,
get to
trying to
anyone
hit
you
on
want,
someone?
but like at least like you don't have to think about that.
Yeah,
much, but
that's
that would
so
just
true.
be so funny.
No,
If I
but
was
the
just-
sad part is I wouldn't think about it if I was single either. And
No, I know you
You'd
wouldn't.
have to deal with it, or
Yeah,
you'd
you find
probably
the
a lot of
people-
people would be like, that guy's a fucking loser.
But no, that's what makes you so great and authentic that you don't care.
Yeah, but I'm
Now
just
you're
like
why would you want to be with someone who would think that's
exactly,
embarrassing?
and I'm just making choice fatigue easier for myself because I'm eliminating a lot of people who just aren't going to talk to the wet, white,
The wet,
milky weirdo. Anyways,
Speaking of the Milky Way and all the stars and the suns and our sun specifically sending light to your skin.
boom. So UVA and UVB are the ultraviolet radiation that we need to worry about. There is UVC, but thank goodness for the ozone layer. It shoots it back out into space. Without that, we'd all be burnt to death. So
what about DHIJKLMNOP?
no, because if you think of the electromagnetic, this is actually worth explaining. I didn't think about this. If you think about the electromagnetic spectrum, which is a way of like measuring the wavelength of light, when we talk about UV light, we're talking about the specific size in nanometers. So they've just defined them in 3 different sizes and just chosen 3.
Yeah, like they could be segmented smaller if they wanted, but it's like probably correlated also to just like the convenience.
And because UVA and UVB, the nanometer wavelength of their size, it's not visible to you because the visible light that we can see is only a very small specific wavelength as well. So that's why you get sunburn without watching the things hit your skin and burn your skin. Right. But you can feel it. Like you can feel the energy. You just can't see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so UVA, based on the wavelengths and the electromagnetic properties, it goes deeper into your epidermis and it actually causes like damage to elastin and collagen. So UVA is part of the reason why it is true that if you get sunburnt, you will have leathery, wrinkly, photopigmented skin when you're older.
And I'm sure maybe you're going to bring this up in a moment, but I'm just going to say as well, I was going to talk about it later, is like it's also destroying DNA.
Yeah. Sorry, that's UVB.
Oh, sorry.
That's
still
UVB.
talking about, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. So UVA,
is just the
well, actually, UVA is destroying DNA. They've realized that recently. Okay. So it causes specific types of cancer. Okay. But the UVB is the one that the second it hits your skin, it stays more on the surface of your skin. You're getting DNA damage immediately.
Like, even if you're in the sun for like a little bit, which obviously is like natural to like be in the sun. So there's like a degree that your body probably is like meant to handle that, as all species have.
So that's why when you hear UVA, UVB, there are different properties and you need to protect yourself from both. And that's why like now most
now
sunscreens,
like visible light is what we're saying is like the extra.
Yeah. But also
I swear that would make us grayscale. Why am I going crazy?
No, it's just you're just I can explain it to you more.
If someone's wearing something that blocks the visible light, they
blocks the visible light from hitting your skin.
Yeah, but if the light is shining on you and bouncing to me and not sending it's all visible light,
it's sending
because right now your skin's only sending back some visible light to me, and that's what
and some's getting absorbed. So that's why it's like the ones that cover the visible spectrum are like white. They look like white on your skin.
Saying you'll look white.
Yes, that's what I'm saying is that you will, because that's part of the reason why there's issues with them, because people aren't willing to wear it.
But then isn't that just the same as what do you call it? I have it like what's that other kind of sunscreen?
Yeah, it
called?
is. It is the like zinc sunscreen.
Physical blocker.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, because those have been around forever.
That's what they're saying is why that's even better, is because it's blocking visible light, which they now realize does actually cause damage, whereas before we were told it didn't.
Okay, I have caught up to speed.
Yeah, I was going to try and explain that later when I talked more, but I guess maybe it needed to be explained early on.
Well, in my mind, what
no, because you were freaking out about what you couldn't see.
Well, also because in my mind, what you were talking about was something new and not the physical blockers.
Yeah,
which actually I think were some of the early kinds of sunscreens.
Yeah, like back in the day,
easier to do something that just blocked the light than a chemical reaction, which is what like modern sunscreens are.
Chemical sunscreen only started to get sold in the 1920s and 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
Read that they were first marketed at SPF 2.
Okay, this kind of goes back to what I was saying with UVA. The UVA rays are also what contribute to the tan, and the tan that you get if you are like a white person, but also even like black people, for example, they can get this same thing happening, but their properties are different because they have melanocytes that produce different chemicals. Okay. But essentially, it's like the inflammation after those rays causes almost like a callus that is representative of your tan. but you also get like a tan is almost a physiological callus that your body created.
That's a really amazing way to describe that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Because obviously the darker your skin is, then the more it's like protected from the sun, like damaging you in the same way that if you wear bare feet all the time, you'll have calluses to protect you from like the risk that you're associating.
But it's a myth to think that it helps. Like it's always a sign of like you've done damage.
Yeah, but then I imagine if say I like lived somewhere sunny all the time, I probably would be like, in the winter I go really pale. In the summer I'm much darker. I assume at that darker stage I am marginally more protected from the sun.
Well, okay, so
it may not be significant.
I think from my understanding, but this episode's like gonna be over an hour. Like that's so interesting. From my understanding, and people should fact check me on this, but I'm just gonna now explain things based on like what I've learned from physiology.
Okay.
Everyone has the same, whether you're white or you're black or you're mixed, you have the same amount of melanocytes. Okay. But what is different is the what those melanocytes create, the biochemicals they create, which create pigmentation. And when you are more fair-skinned, because of a lack of those chemicals, you do get burnt way worse.
Yeah.
And so it's like, maybe if you're getting a callus, and therefore your melanocytes are creating almost like a pigmentation now, maybe there is an increase in the certain amount of biochemicals that would protect you like minimally. But their point is more that like the DNA damage, regardless of your tan or not, is, they say, always the same.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're protecting yourself from the burn and the inflammation, but the DNA damage, they haven't seen like changes based on whether you're tanned or not or have a callus.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, like, you should, even if you're like at the end of the summer, you should be putting on sunscreen, even if you're tanned. It's not like you've now like improved your chances of getting less DNA damage, but maybe less of a burn, less inflammation.
Yeah, okay, less DNA damage.
Yeah, and so anyways, it's just like,
that makes sense.
It's crazy that happens, and even like black people, still you can burn and get inflammation, and you can get photopigmentation, which is something that white people don't necessarily worry about as much. White people are really worried about like aging and wrinkles, so it does negatively affect the aging process for everyone. It's also good to know
different ways.
And then UVB is the one that causes like redness if you're white, swelling, blistering, inflammation, those types of burns. And the melanocytes are these cells in your skin that help you to not, essentially like die. Like they kind of are like these like octopus cells that absorb the UV rays, and they think your melanocytes have an SPF of 3. Like your skin has an SPF of 3. So that was when I was thinking of what you were saying. Like,
too. But wait, that's for who?
Like everyone.
Everyone has that baseline regardless of,
because your melanocytes are absorbing the UVA, UVB and trying to do their best with that, with the energy.
Okay.
Yeah. And a blistering sunburn in childhood increases your risk of melanoma later on in life by 50%. Just one burn. Blistering burn. So you'd have to remember.
Have you ever had a blister? Blistering burn.
I have like skin peeling, but I've never had a blister, but I've seen it.
Me too.
It's really bad.
I don't think I've ever. I think I would remember because at that point, is it not considered like a certain degree burn?
Yeah, they only wrote blistering burn, so I don't know.
It's always crazy, and I'm really stupid. I'm just forgetting right now, like which degree is the worst one.
I think it's first.
Okay,
right?
like because that's like, or is it?
That's an interesting question. Same with murder, right? First degree murder and third. I'm always like, which one's the worst? Like, is it like my third cousin? Like, what is that? Yeah, he's like, we're in jail for third degree murder. I'm like, oh, that's nothing. He threw a rock and it hit someone in the head. But then it's like, no, he's a serial killer. Like, I always get it wrong.
What was I gonna say? What was I talking about? I've lost track.
About like when you've seen a really bad burn.
Oh yes, I remember being on a trip with somebody in Thailand, and they had to go to the hospital because they were on motorcycles. Like I wasn't with them that day, but they got some kind of like mopeds or Vespas or something. Were riding around, so obviously they weren't realizing, like, because you get the wind on you. So like her whole chest bubbled, and she had to go to the hospital. Like she was okay. She just got like, I guess, some sort of cream or steroid cream or something, and was back on the trip. It wasn't like it just took her out, but I remember the visual of it was like
the UVBs are strong. Like the UVB and the UVA rays are strong, that it will burn you like you're a chicken.
Yeah, but it's different though in a way, because it's actually not the heat, right? Like she was being cooled down by air. Yeah. It's actually like heat,
electromagnetic radiation.
Yeah, which is like,
which you can't see.
Like in some ways, I don't know.
No, let's go. I love the electromagnetic. What's your question? I love the electromagnetic
Well,
spectrum.
I know. I'm just thinking of like, okay, these are all just different wavelengths, but then how do we translate that into heat? I guess like the higher a wavelength, the more heat it will probably produce, right?
Heat is energy, and isn't
Like the
it
transfer of
related
energy,
to
right?
particles vibrating?
Yeah.
So UV, the crazy thing about in my head,
because I'm like, maybe it is cooking you then.
Yeah,
just in a way that
it
we
is.
aren't like. Obviously, when you cook with fire,
it's
like,
cooking you because
but
the
not with
molecules.
UVB, you know.
Yeah, but like the electromagnetic spectrum isn't a particle; it's about wavelengths of air. Although some people, it's like wait, light is particles, like photons. It's crazy. Oh my god, I love this is physics. Wow, we're back. But that energy that if you picture as a wavelength is causing your skin, the molecules in your skin, like your melanocytes and stuff, to then burn. Right, so it's like it is actually heat and temperature in its own way, but it's a transfer of the energy from that.
Right. Yeah, I guess. But we're also talking about on a certain level, it's breaking down DNA, like by the radiation, not by the heat. But now I am like, is there a difference?
Well, yeah, that's
when something like breaks down because it's hot. How do you compare that to something breaking down because a wavelength of something hit it?
Yeah, that's a physics question, and we have to do an episode called "What's the difference between wavelength heat and like particle heat?"
Oh yeah,
kind of. That's the question.
Yeah,
okay, we're doing one about that. It's going to be about heat. It's going to be about heat.
Someone's definitely listening, and they're like, "You're so stupid." Like,
well,
to someone, this is so
definitely.
Easy.
There's so many people listening who are like, "You're so stupid," but I also think that hopefully there's people listening being like, "That's interesting."
Okay,
because that's what I would think. Because I would also not know. But you're right. We don't
no, it's also
so many people know.
I had an edible that I'm like, are we being really stupid right now? And I'm not putting it
No,
together. Okay.
we're not being stupid at all.
Okay, great.
You like it's okay to not understand parts about physics. Like that's such a complex.
True.
So everyone in this, most people go around not.
I just have a very bad
physics.
memory that sometimes I'm like, should I have learned this in like grade 11?
Well, we might have. We might have had an understanding
right.
of this.
Hopefully, everyone has this experience. It's just like imposter syndrome, to be honest. Like that, I'm like, there are lots of smart people. Like, and I am on the internet as someone who explains science to people because I think I'm like good at learning science and understanding it, but I forget a lot of things, and so I have some imposter syndrome of like, well, there's a lot of those things I don't remember the explanation to.
I see what you're saying.
And so in this moment, getting personal. And also because sometimes I feel your memory is so good that like I'll forget how like the process of something that's so easy for you because you're like, I still remember that from university.
Well,
like, I forgot it.
I also forget lots of things, and I also love not knowing things. I love learning things, and I think it's really important as science communicators to never feel like we have to feel that way, because
so if someone's listening and they're like, wow, they were stupid, you just also need to reach out and be like, it's so great you didn't know that, and now I'm gonna help you understand.
I don't think that's what I mean. I think I just like I would never expect anyone
to know everything.
And I really think there's an issue in science communication where people talk almighty like they do know everything, and then it makes it less interesting to learn. They come off condescending. And the most important thing about science is knowing that it's a shared collective concept that requires people knowing small things about lots of things.
That's
and true. If you ever think you know so much, that's when you start using science in a bad way.
You're right. And reminds me of Survivor. Like when you're comfortable is when you're going home. If you think you know too much, you know everything, then you know nothing.
But okay, so anyways, we're gonna get our episode on heat. It's gonna get done, and back to the electromagnetic spectrum. We're picturing the ultraviolet radiation. It burned your friend's chest so bad there was bubbles, and that was the UVB because the UVA was absorbed further in. Yeah, I don't know. What do you want to get into the sunscreen part?
Well, I would let's obviously talk about the sunscreen part. I mean, so that's the premise of like how you get burned, and obviously that also leads to cancers, skin cancers, and like the long exposure. That's why sunscreens are so important. This is like where the conversation started, because I think where it has gone is like, well, now are sunscreens worse than exposing your skin to the sun? Yeah. Right? It's kind of like some people are having that conversation.
Yeah. Or there's weird, like when you go to the beach, it's like everyone's judging their sunscreen, and some people are like, well, I'm actually not using that. And it's like, wait, but shouldn't we? Like, if there's something's happening with sunscreen. Yeah.
So, I mean, I just only ended up choosing a study that like found something interesting about sunscreen. Okay. But obviously sunscreen, if we're talking about like what it does, I know we've kind of already mentioned that, but obviously like the physical blockers are literally reflecting the ultraviolet rays from the sun. and not, like you said, there's different ingredients, but the chemical blockers absorb the ultraviolet rays. So like they work in different ways. I think that's why when you see the ones that are actually making someone's face white, that's like a physical blocker.
Which every celebrity should start doing so it becomes a trend.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet, I'm looking at you. Put some cute white zinc oxide sunscreen on your nose, you little twink, and people will do it.
Yeah, because that's also where a lot of the conversation and debate about safety is that in the chemical blockers, we have now found a lot of those chemicals in chemicals is a word I'm using with quotes because it's like everything is a chemical.
Well, we can read out some of the names.
So it's like that includes aminobenzoic acid,
do it as drag queens.
Octosalate.
Wait, say like coming to the
stage, oxybenzone.
Oh my God, you're actually really bad.
You know, she keeps you safe when she wants to, but is she stabbing you in the back?
And voguing out onto the stage right now, we've got aminobenzoic acid. Give it up for aminobenzoic acid.
Yes, queen. So those have become the controversial thing, which is why it's even in sort of like, how do you say? Like, I don't want to say like hippie because I like know lots of people that do this, but there's like the new age health of people being like, I'm only putting physical blockers on my kids.
Know what I call them? Granola.
Oh, granola. That's a nice way to say it.
It seems like it's punching up.
Yeah, because hippies too long ago too.
Also, hippie is like a good thing. It's like, oh, they were radically fighting the Vietnam War. Like,
well, you know what
that.
though? Granola can be good in some ways.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's what I'm trying to talk about is people who are like, oh shit, like we're learning we're being poisoned with plastic at every turn. I'm sure people are justified to be
maybe we shouldn't make fun of anyone who does that. That's
because
the right
we
thing
might
to
not
do.
know the answer. But okay, so I give you a bit of that answer.
I give you.
Okay, wow. Or do I wait for that?
No, give it.
Just in terms of like the conversation around what. So those chemicals are in our blood, but not enough studies have been done yet. That we know they're there, but we don't exactly know if they're like having extremely bad effects on us.
Yeah. So
it's like the number in our blood of people who use sunscreen is like so high.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of like, shouldn't we be like figuring out if that's bad for us?
Yeah. So that's because these chemicals from the chemical sunscreens, the oxybenzone, the octocrylene, they all actually do get absorbed. Not fully, but some of it gets absorbed into your blood.
Yeah.
So that is like an interesting
important thing to at least
know.
Research more.
Yeah. But from what I found was, I'm just going to say it like that. You know, they've done some pretty good studies and it's not high enough concentrations right now to cause any issues, including in like fetal development. And there was a lot of concern about pregnant women using them. And so
they're using it on like children's skin and being like, is it worse if it's like affecting them? Because
sorry. Like I know the children's skin thing, but it's separate in that there was thoughts that the only thing we should be worried about is pregnant women because the absorption's going to a developing fetus. Okay. So, and they found this specific disease called Hirschsprung's disease.
Oh, and they thought it was correlated with sunscreen use?
So high amounts of oxybenzone in a woman can lead to your kid having this genetic disorder. Okay. But what they've realized is that they haven't found it in high enough in women yet to cause that disorder. But the specific chemical does at high enough concentrations. So that's kind of freaky. Like that's where maybe a pregnant woman would say, I'm not using chemical sunscreen. And they'd have more of a reason than even not putting it on your kids.
Yeah, I guess what I meant is like kids are also developing and oxybenzone gets so much bad press because it is a hormone disruptor. Gotcha. So it's like if I'm putting these things on my kids that are still like developing and still growing, and it's able to cross cell membranes and interfere with your body's natural hormone production.
Which is why
in those high doses.
Yeah. Sorry, that makes sense. Like I was trying to talk about the like woman pregnant, and then you're like, yeah, but still kids are developing too. I'm like, true, yeah. It's why I think you see so many kids and it's so cute in their full physical garbs while swimming.
Yeah.
Because it's like that is such a
like their hat.
Yeah.
And like so much.
And it's like because now you don't have to use these chemical sunscreens. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
better.
Like maybe in the future we might realize, maybe we won't, but like it's easy enough to just have a long sleeve shirt on then if you're worried about it.
Oh my God, I'm now gonna be that, but an adult, and no one's ever gonna ask for my number. I'm gonna be like, wait, instead of being milky, I'm gonna wear full outfit.
That'd be kind of cute. Is that weird? Like
It's
or it might be
obviously
weird.
it's like a cute in concept. I would show up to the beach and immediately
in like
be
a
so
baby's like
embarrassed.
bathing suit of it that's like full pants and a full long
You
sleeve
do
shirt.
realize that the gay beach we go to, people are either naked or trying
It
to
would
wear
look
the
like
least small
pajamas.
thing, and they're trying to wear speedos.
But that would you'd stand out.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
would.
like,
I don't want to stand
They
out.
could make a line like for adults of baby bathing suits.
Okay, Mitch, that
But
is
you wouldn't call
so.
it
You standing in front of this, being like, I don't know why no one's buying these.
No. I think
Like a
there's
speedo,
way.
maybe. Like, sorry, not a speedo. Spandex.
We wouldn't call it an adult baby bathing suit. We would just be like, this is your sun wear
Actually-
when you go swimming. That's why when you're scuba diving, you wear. Well, yeah, maybe not the reason.
You know
but-
what? People actually, now that I think about it, there's sort of those like biker looking
Yeah,
looks. that,
bikers
like-
basically are doing that.
Wait, that's kind of what Kim K like when
It should just be like inspired by scuba gear. So
Yeah.
it looks like, it's made to be. It's like cool to wear.
Motomami, Rosalia would do it.
Okay, and our line now has Rosalia repping
If
it.
Rosalie and Bad Bunny do it, people will do it. But I kind of in this moment, like, you know that viral TikTok of James Charles being like, let me get ready for my 23rd birthday. And he's like, I'm really inspired by this outfit because I finally saw like Kim Kardashian West wearing this outfit. And it is what we're talking about. It's like her wearing like a full top with
yeah.
arms.
Okay.
And he was like, and that's why I was inspired. And it's like, that is
Gonna be
maybe
cool.
Kim K's doing it because she's like, I have to protect my skin.
Oh wow.
And if so, we're on to you. And yet again, we
But
like
she
it,
would
Kim
say
K.
that and she'd be selling it. She'd be like, and it's actually for skin protection, and I have a whole line.
I don't
of
know.
these.
Well, she has Skims. I haven't read the brief,
Oh, like
but
she
maybe.
might.
Yeah. Also, apparently, she got rid of her BBL, and now everyone's like, the age of the BBL is over, and I'm like, that's so problematic.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, we're going on a little Kardashian tangent, and I think it's
BBL?
Kardashian. It's a Brazilian butt lift. Oh my god, we need to do a video on that.
Okay.
So
This whole time I was like, big, like, what?
I love you so much for not knowing what a BBL is. Because I'm like, my brain goes, how could you not know what a BBL is? But I'm like, it is weird. It's a Brazilian butt lift.
I mean, I
that's
know
like,
that. I just, I didn't know the acronym was so popular.
You know, like when Kim K one day was like, what the hell you got back there? Like she got a Brazilian butt lift, I think can be assumed. And there's now been like reports on like obviously not the New York Times, other websites that her BBL is gone because they're kind of getting, and it makes
because it's not as popular anymore.
well,
or-
this is why I think that they're such a menacing group of people. I know everyone loves them, but I think what they did is just stole a bunch of trendy like culture, like black culture, like big lips, big ass, these things, made them trendy. And now with their money, they're gonna just get like complete cultural approach
into
and
whatever is
and then now there's like a bunch of like white people who did it who are like, well, I can't afford to get rid of it, and they're like, oh well, you just culturally appropriate for the rest of your life. Like I'm just like this, there's something really intense about the way they come in and out of trends, in my opinion,
Yeah, that's fair.
that I'm just like, if she's doing the sunblock bathing suit, like cover yourself thing, I'm there for it, Kim K.
Okay.
But your BBL's gone, and I'm like, what's going on?
Wow, that was a side note.
That was a true side
fashion. I'm gonna come back to oxybenzone and just say yes, there is no conclusive evidence that it's harmful to humans in certain, even the times that they've only really studied in rats. I don't
And
know
they were eating
playing
it.
like this. Yeah, and they were feeding it.
Yeah,
to
I know.
them. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that
and
was
just so you know. No,
well.
that was
I read that
my-
exact study. I was like, okay, well, we're not feeding the kids the sunscreen,
Right. But again, I do want to just acknowledge, like, of course, it's good to be asking these questions, but it's
Yeah.
important to know what our most up-to-date science is.
And also, people are now. This is sort of to answer the question, like maybe is it bad? It's like, okay, it is so much better to be wearing sunscreen, whether it's chemical or not, when you're out in the sun, because of what we said about the DNA damage, the things we know it will do to you.
It's kind
A
of like we
melanoma,
know you'll get
yes,
burned and possible risk of skin
and
cancer
we
going
know
so high.
that cancer will increase.
Yeah.
That is going to be different than what we
Compared
don't
to
know.
what we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which like could still eventually we'll realize, oh, this chemical, it's nowhere near the rates of like the awful things that happen when you don't wear it. But when you do, maybe it's better to have this third version of it that
Yeah.
doesn't cause that.
If you're on the beach and someone has one and it only has oxybenzone, is it? And you don't have anything and you're panicking, just use it.
Yeah.
The other thing though is that oxybenzone does ruin coral reefs.
Oh.
So we don't think about that much because we're in a lake system, although it does obviously get absorbed in fish, and it's I'm not saying it's good, but that's another really interesting argument for why we need to revolutionize sunscreen, because these chemicals, they might be working for us, but they're ruining the ecosystem. They're ruining coral reefs. So in places like Australia, it's not good to use them, and I bet they have different culture around what sunscreen they should use
like
for environmental
looking
reasons.
at the label and being like, it doesn't have that. I know this is literally not killing the coral.
Yeah, and it's specifically coral reefs, and we don't live near those.
Yeah.
So we don't maybe
That's
know as
interesting.
much about what it's
Yeah.
doing. But that's a good reason
Oh
to
my gosh,
not.
if you're from Australia, please let us know if that's true.
Also, congratulations. They just ousted their like evil climate change denier
great.
person, and they got in people who are probably going to help Australia do better things for climate change, which makes sense because they had those wildfires while that person was in
They're
power,
like,
and it was
maybe
so
he's
awkward.
not helping.
It's like, this is why, come on, world. And it is sad, but sometimes those devastating climate change, like disastrous events are what, I don't know. I don't know enough about the election,
Well,
but
that
it's
is the
interesting
saddest
that they,
thing is that it takes people that to like
so sad.
really have to see suffering and like bad things before they can make a change.
Everything's nuanced. I know that they're left of center. I'm sure there's people there who are like, they're not left enough.
Oh, true. I don't know.
But just saying that they're at least going to like acknowledge climate change. And
great
people voted
step.
for that. Yeah.
I have some more to say about sunscreen though. Like a really cool study that was done on the use of it. But did you have? You're looking like you
No.
did I cut you off?
No.
This now that we know sunscreen, you should just wear it if you have no alternative to covering your skin. Like, to wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
But what this study found is that most, as in the majority of people, are putting it on wrong. Okay, so the average person is only getting 40% of the SPF that they're saying is on the bottle, and that's because, like, not only like people aren't using enough. Is the
What?
thing. So
I think I might be one of the people who does this right.
You're right. Yeah, you already talked about how
I was
your
really
face
scared, but
with
I'm like,
not, with the chemical
no,
kind,
yeah.
you still are white.
And I keep going through the stuff because I use a whole bottle a day.
Yeah, I'm always like, wait, we're out of sunscreen.
And then
you're
I get
just, like,
mad when I don't
covered
have a
in white.
tan. I'm like, I'm not tan. And everyone's like, you put that on like 48 times. Okay, continue.
It was just basically that was the main fact. They were realizing when studying this cohort of people, like they're not putting enough on, and the amount they are is as much as like down to 40% of what their SPF is saying. So if you're putting on a 30, you're really only getting like a 10.
Wow, sounds like this might have been sponsored by the SPF industry.
Is
I'm
there
kidding,
such a
I'm
thing?
kidding. No, I'm kidding. But I'm like, I'm actually joking. But it's funny because it's like use more, the shampoo thing, like rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Oh, they said if you're using SPF 20, it's as low as SPF 4, the way that people are on average doing it.
Whoa.
Which is like basically nothing.
That's basically your melanocytes.
Yeah. And so the amount you need to be putting on in quantitative terms is 2 milligrams of sunscreen per square centimeter of skin.
Okay, but how
That
much square centimeter?
Exactly.
Okay,
so
I'm like,
that's obviously the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
It's a science. They had to. That came from a science article.
Yeah, because they had to be
and
like, we're
then-
trying the
yeah,
different
yeah.
like levels. Of,
Okay, but like
that is about 1 shot glass size amount on your body, but a teaspoonful on your face is like roughly what you should be doing.
a shot. That's it on your body.
You're right. That doesn't
seem like.
But if you go to get a shot, that would be a lot.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It's a surface area to volume issue.
Yeah, because
when
you're
you
putting
put it
a little
on,
and then you rub it everywhere. But it's like if you went like
a shot,
into your hand.
Okay, well then I know I'm doing it right because I do about 4 shots per body. I do 4 shots per thigh. Like,
oh wow.
I'm like,
Okay.
I'm using buckets of this stuff.
Well, that was not a direct calculation from the 2 milligram study, but that was what a doctor had talked about in general. That's the advice given.
I want to do the 2 milligrams.
So for your face, a teaspoon to the face, which is a lot. Like sometimes I only put a little on my fingers and then I rub it across my whole face. But because
I really want to figure out what my surface area is, which is so morbid as a human, but I want to know what it would be like if I was cut down the center and just like spread open like
my god, like a mat?
like a horrible bare rug. And then I want to like measure and then be like, how much shots of sunscreen do I need? Like from 2 milligrams.
Actually, like, rub it out.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, there's probably an easier way than cutting yourself open. You could probably literally calculate that and draw it out.
I want an
and practice.
app or something, someone to figure that out.
No, okay, we need a sunscreen sponsor. That's like a fun video to do.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like how much sunscreen? Because they love this. This is the sunscreen industry being like, use more.
I believe in socialism. The government should be paying for our sunscreen.
Oh wow,
That's white privilege at this time. Imagine like the white supremacist society that we all live in was like, we're actually going to pay for everyone's sunscreen before we
Before we give
ensure
them
that
food
people
and
have like
water.
food and water. It's like, well, the white people win again.
Oh my god.
So I actually don't believe in that. But once we get like human
Everything
rights for
else is
all,
there,
then I'd be down for some sunscreen
Oh my
being
God,
paid for
Greg.
by the government.
interestingly, there's lots of arguments around, like 50 SPF being no better than 100 SPF.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, it's like, even with 20 and 30, you're hitting
We've
almost
all
like
had that
98%
combo.
of. But
What is it? Do you have an answer?
Oh, that is true.
Oh, it is?
No, there's a degree. What do you call it? Like a lowering degree of returns on it.
Okay.
So like
the more
as
you add.
Yeah. So up to maybe I wrote it down
see.
here. It's
okay,
like,
that's a good way of putting it.
hold on, I'm trying to.
It's not like it is
thought
the
I wrote it. It's like
equivalent.
because 30. I think it's 30 SPF, but I might be wrong. I swear I had it written down here. I can't find it. It's able to block like 98%. Do you know what I mean? So then like 50 and 100 are getting to that 100%. But
They should be called like 31
diminishing rate
and
of returns. That is what I was trying to think
They
of.
should
earlier.
have. It should be called like 31 and a half or something.
Yeah, but the number, I guess, I actually don't know what the numbers mean. But in this study, what they found was that if you had a higher one, because people were putting like less than 1/3 of what they should have on their body, the higher one was actually more useful.
Oh, wow.
Thought that was interesting.
Okay,
so
cool.
because everyone's doing it wrong, it's like actually probably better that you have the higher one.
I'm 30 at least or bust. Someone hands me a 15. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to look for
same.
something else.
And I know you're like, I don't need it as much, but I am just like, I'm not obsessed with tanning. Like I love sitting in the sun. But I actually am like, I don't like care so much to be tanned. And so when people have sunscreen and it's like 15, I'm like that. I don't know. I'm thinking about skin cancer. I'm thinking about aging skin, getting wrinkles. I'm thinking about. Which I didn't think about when I was younger,
that's why it's good for people to listen to this, because sometimes you take risks with these things because you don't understand. It's like, no, this specific radiation, the UVB rays are immediately destroying your DNA. You can just think of it like that, and it's true.
But it's very much
scary.
reminds me of like helmets. It's like somehow cool to not wear a helmet, or it's dorky to wear it, and people want to be tanned in a way that's cool. Like it's like sexy to like look
very
tanned.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
It's like so
and maybe
interesting.
I don't think it's because putting on sunscreen makes you feel nerdy. Like it's not visible like a helmet, but it's like, why choose not to wear a helmet on a bike?
Yeah.
Like, I guess maybe, but that's for convenience. It's so your hair doesn't get messed up, so you can wear a hat. So, you, like, I assume. Otherwise, I'm like, that's so dangerous.
I think it's
why is it worth the risk?
I think it's weirdly cultural. It's like it literally goes back to like Bad Bunny and Rosalia wearing these full body outfits that we're gonna ASAP Science.
Cool.
Is that like there's so much tied into that, and so much that we're sold on is that like danger, and people who like, I don't give it 80GAF is cool. That's what we've been like taught. And maybe over time things will change, but it's something that like you notice with science. Like I'm always like, you can't be a famous cool person who is a science communicator, because and
science people are so typically like nerdy, because it's like we're all wearing helmets for sure. We're all like putting on sunscreen because we've like maybe this is not where you're going with this, but I was just thinking of like
because you know what the impacts
when
are.
You're like, well, that's why I'm gonna wear a helmet.
And I think that's what is the bigger cultural thing that is so interesting, is that like knowing things and being interested in learning is like quote unquote not cool. It's like, but that's what I try to fight against.
Is that is cool.
But it's like the more I look at things, and even sometimes like when we were talking the other day, people like to watch reality TV and they like the messy parts. Like you like the bad things. And so it's like it's kind of nerdy to be putting on sunscreen because it's like the right thing to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like a weird thing that we've like created for ourselves. But I think it's very sexy to wear sunscreen. But it's like, no, I don't even. Like I know. Like when I see myself, I'm like nerd alert, like Greg, and I'm like, that's what I look like. Everyone's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my god, and I start like rubbing, and I'm like, it's bad. Like I look like a nerd.
I guess, but it is weird that it's like, I guess there is that part of it where even though you can rub it all the way in, it can lead to embarrassment if you just have like a streak of white in your face.
Yeah, right? Mine always gets in my beard.
It's like have someone seeing a booger. It's like, that is natural. It's actually not embarrassing, but like for some reason it's like so embarrassing.
Seeing a booger.
And if an hour later you go to the bathroom and you're like, no one told me this booger was in my nose the whole time. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing.
That is so interesting. Why is
sunscreen
a booger? Sunscreen is booger. Why are they both like, no, bad, ew? Like that's so bad, because it's like it's just the natural snot from your nose.
I guess the thought is like, you haven't felt it, something's wrong.
Booger, you can do the hunter-gatherer evolutionary, it means they're sick.
Oh, true.
So that's why I don't like.
And don't you think like it's normal to have boogers, but to like not know it's like there when it's big,
it's because it's embarrassing. It's about self-awareness.
Yeah, it's like you.
Yeah,
but it is hard because
self-awareness is hot. and it's immediately unself-aware.
That's true.
Right?
So to have like a splotch of that is actually it.
It's something about self-awareness.
But self-awareness and lack of it can sometimes be tied up in someone who's also just like confident. That's what I think you are. So I think like other people might look at you sometimes and be like, is he not self-aware? But if they get to know you, they get to know he actually doesn't care because it doesn't matter.
Like, yeah, I'm not self-aware. Like I'm like,
but yours
I'm not self-aware. Like, or that. And I don't know there's sunscreen on my face and I'm like, get it off.
But I try to tell you those things all the time and I feel like you get mad at me.
No, it's true because I'm trying to not care.
I'll be like, you have food all in your teeth. And you're like, shut up.
Oh my
Who cares? And I'm like, you didn't get it out. You're
yeah,
still
no,
there.
I just think maybe deep down I'm not self-aware.
Okay,
so to combat, what I will say about sunscreen, we are not at a place scientifically where we need to go, we're done. There's a lot more we need to understand and we need to develop so that we're not ruining the oceans, so that we don't even have to worry about the fact that there's not enough oxybenzone to maybe hurt us. But let's just like maybe like, it's still a chemical that could. And so I was reading that there's these other things they're working on. Like there's 2 red algae that have photoprotective antioxidant properties that right now they've gotten to like an SPF of like 12.
Oh, cool.
But they're like maybe
by using that algae to make a paste or something, or
so a lot of the sunscreens you can buy now, if we're trying to get to like what people should like maybe consume. This is all not thinking about socioeconomics because annoyingly these sunscreens that are quote unquote the best for the earth and you are more expensive, and then the smallest tubes. Like I was looking the other day because I was reading about it and I was like, that's so annoying. Like oxybenzone's cheap.
True, yeah.
But anyways, look for oxybenzone, look for these things, you'll be fine. But there are these specific sunscreens that will lean into the zinc oxide, the titanium oxide. So they'll go on your skin a little bit whiter, but they'll still not be like your fully white.
What did you just say they were?
Sorry, no, this reddish algae one is not on the market yet.
Okay.
This is like, but what it also has in it are these antioxidative properties.
Yeah.
So a lot of the sunscreens you should look for are called antioxidant sunscreens.
Okay.
And then when you read those, it'll be easier for your choices. When you start to read those ingredients, you most likely won't find oxybenzone.
Okay.
You'll find the zinc oxide. You'll find the physical blockers.
If this is the same thing. Like I had read something about nanoparticles in some sunscreens because people were wondering like, is this dangerous? Is it bad? And I think it was more in the kinds that like are white, and the nanoparticles are helping to make it invisible and to absorb into your skin. So
I didn't know about, and I haven't read about
like it says they have not been shown to penetrate beyond the level of the skin and migrate into the bloodstream, which means they're unlikely to cause health risks. So
cool.
I think in some of those kinds of sunscreens, they put nanoparticles in to help it like not be physically embarrassing.
Oh, that's
but then people are like, are the nanoparticles bad for us? And now
that's
they're
so
like,
interesting.
as of now, no.
So there'd be nanoparticles in these sunscreens likely because they are sort of the more physical ones we were talking about with the zinc oxide forward, but they probably have nanoparticles, so they rub in better than what you're picturing, which is like the 1970s photo with the guy on his nose.
You know what it looks like? You know when did you used to have those whiteout strips?
Yes, it looks like that. Yeah. Oh, I'm such a sad memory about that.
Oh no.
So I like, again, always drag my parents, never had any toys. So like, I had toys, but I never, you know how people would show up at school and they'd have like the 5-star binder and like that space maker
for like school.
I never had that. Like it was like my parents were like, teacher supply rulers. I was like, okay, yeah, the shitty brown one that like no one uses. Everyone has a purple one with like Zac Efron on it. God. So like I was always like, I had never had good.
So funny.
Well, like, but they like the teachers did supply rulers.
That's
but
true.
It's funny. But everyone's like, this one sucks.
Yeah, I've just never thought about it. I've never thought about how like this also conforms to your worldview that your parents gave you nothing.
yeah. But this
like
didn't give me
nothing.
nothing.
I did get like spliffed up like swag of like rulers and stuff. Like I had some of those things. Like I had like a blue ruler that was see-through and bendable. And stuff.
Like no doubt in my mind. You didn't have, like we know.
But it still to me was boring. Like I wasn't like, oh yes. I was like, it's a fucking ruler.
So it is cool. It's like, Mom and Dad, I'm dragging you, but it's actually really cool. My parents are very anti-consumerism, and you know the concept of back to school shopping.
Yeah,
they were like, no,
this all exists.
They were
already.
like, we are. If you need something, we'll get it in just like October. We're not falling into this trap of like American consumerism, and good for them. And that's what some parents would probably get into it. So you'd almost have like a gift giving ceremony for the beginning of the school year. And it's that triggered me because I'd go in and everyone would be like, I'm so excited for school. I have all my new shit. And I'd be like, wait, my parents are against back to school shopping. Like, so then now I'm like feeling like a freaking loser who was like probably the ugliest sunscreen on too. So anyways, I finally save up some money to go because everyone has those freaking new whiteout things that are like plastic and you push and it makes a like perfect strip. Yeah. And like I remember like guys being like writing out like a math equation purposefully wrong to be like ding.
Why would you ever write math in pens, silly fool?
Sorry. Yeah, dumb guy. Like whatever it was. I just remember people were enjoying whiteout so much that they were making mistakes and I was just like so jealous. I saved up my money and I went to buy one. I get home. I just bought a reload cartridge. I didn't even buy the thing. And I had this wheel of whiteout and I was like at school and I opened it. I was like, oh. And I would like try and peel it off and like press it on. Oh my
God, Greg. What?
It was so sad. That's what the trigger.
You literally would try and do it manually.
Yeah, because I'd spent like, you know, I probably got $1 every like Friday. And so I'd saved up $5 to buy a cartridge.
Oh my gosh, Greg.
It was sad.
That's so funny.
That's nothing allowance. Mine was low, people. $1 a week. Okay. Anyways.
My gosh.
So yeah. Oh, it doesn't look like whiteout. What's going on your face?
The new
it's better.
Okay.
And so my point with that reddish algae was that we need to keep studying because this reddish algae, there's this other chemical called lignin, which is found in seaweed and algae. Very easy. No, actually, it's not easy to produce. But if we could figure it out, you add lignin in with this reddish algae with some other plant-based materials, and you could get yourself to like an SPF with science and maybe, you know, a little bit of nanoparticles or some other things thrown in there. Maybe we can actually make the sunscreen of the future that won't hurt the environment, won't hurt us. So that's my point is like, let's not just sit back and be like, oh, this is perfect. But definitely sunscreen is not bad. It is necessary for the sun and the world that we currently live in where there's just going to be more rays getting through that atmosphere. Actually, maybe not, but it'll just be keeping the heat in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Climate change, global warming.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm definitely going to wear sunscreen forever. I'm definitely going to try and make I'm going to look at the ingredients, but if you know there's oxybenzone and that's all I have that day, that's what I'm going to be putting on.
Yeah, you're right. It's like do what you can, but like the best common denominator is having something probably on you.
And in Australia, I'm curious in places with coral reefs, I would love to know sort of what happens there and what like choices are made because that's also really serious.
I'm wondering. Yeah, I'm so curious if that's a big conversation. My last sort of point that I came across and wanted to talk about was that sunscreen is not enough, and this ties to my whole life shift that I was telling you about at the beginning, which I'm absolutely shocked I remembered that.
Yes.
Is like so most studies like have demonstrated that individuals who use sunscreen tend to stay in the sun longer and actually do more damage to their skins because they think that the risk is lower. So there is like you have to do more than just put like it is weird because part of me is like we're obviously like evolved to be on this planet and be in the sun. It's not as though or maybe it's just because we're living so much longer or something that we're like getting higher rates of skin cancer, but obviously
good point.
But like
continue.
Anyway,
that's interesting.
I'm just wondering like why can't we be in the sun? Like do we really need to be always in the shadow? Or you know how people like celebrities like have umbrellas, they like cover the sun from their face. Or like people are obsessed with this. Or I don't know.
Mitch, that's such a good point about longevity of life.
But I don't know because sometimes there's a lot of disputes about like that when you say like not that long ago people only averaged to like 40 or 50. But that's is the average because of a lot of child death. It's actually that like lots of people live to 70s even.
Whoa, is that true? That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's like a what would you call it, like a fallacy or something
that is like
was believed for a long time, and now they're like no people lived like almost just as long, but because so many children died, the average age was like 40.
And it is
and
funny.
If you made it past the age of 6 though, it's like then your chance to make it to 70 years old was like really high.
That's crazy.
Or just as high as it would
Someone
be
read Sapiens.
I probably saw that. No, it's a conversation that gets brought up a lot.
I just feel like it probably like wasn't Sapiens. I feel like when I read it,
no,
like, there was something about there was one of his other books he talks about something about that.
Maybe I've heard it a bunch in science spaces. Anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought, but it's like yes, in my own life, I know in my past I've had like this desire to like get tanned, and I also You know, a little bit's from like this dark part of me that's like, well, I am half South Asian, but I sometimes feel like people don't recognize that about me. And I like being tanned. Sometimes people are like, whoa, you can tan a lot.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like I've
interesting.
always sort of felt like when I tan a lot, people are like, oh, you're obviously
you're
not
like,
a white person.
Yeah.
And so like even we'll have friends that are like, you're equally as dark as me, and I'm actually from like my parents are born wherever, and I'm like, my mom was not born in this country either, you know.
And your family is interesting because there's different melanocytes. Like your sister can't do that.
Yeah. My sister and brother can't, and then me and my one brother.
You totally can.
I mean, obviously there's a spectrum. Like it's not like yes or no. Anyway, that was part of me wanting to be tan, but I do think now I am like, maybe it's because I'm aging and I'm like, I want to protect my skin. Like in the same way I want to protect my teeth and I brush them and take care of them. Now I'm like, oh, not that aging has to be like something we totally fear, but it's like, oh, just like protect my skin, keep fit, do all those things that are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
That
I've seen that shift. You used to lie in the sun all the time. And I do think also it was a knowledge thing for we kind of had that summer where we started learning all this stuff. We started like, there was like a weird with ASAP science, you kind of have to learn things, and we were learning about skin. And I think I remember when it was like 4 years ago, we were learning about it and being like, wait, it's genetic destruction.
That's the thing that sticks with you most, that like to walk away from this. Because people are just like, oh, it's just like a red mark. It's just a burn. But it's like your DNA is being like ripped apart.
And people are also being thrust into this like tans good, like what we were talking about earlier, the Kardashian trend.
Tanning
like
salons.
People in Canada go on vacations just to tan, to come back to be like hot
I was
for
away.
a week or whatever. Be like, I was. And they kind of, I always, when people come back, I'm like, you look so good, because in the winter we're all like disgusting.
So pasty,
and like people like, I'm like, it actually worked. And then you ask what they did on their trip, they're like, we like got this tan. Like it's like people are like focused on it.
Totally.
It's like it's
oh my god,
so
tans.
cultural. So I'm just like, that also was something that you probably were influenced by, and then had to leave your life when you were like, this is bad enough that I don't even want to fall into that, because I'm just like gonna die.
Yeah, and
earlier.
just like I think my biggest challenge is I truly love being in the sun. I love feeling it on my skin and like laying in the sun, especially if there's like a pool nearby or something. But even when I first go out in the day, I'm just like, oh, the sun's so nice.
Wow, we have such different. When I feel the sun.
Yeah, you always have to switch the sides of the street.
Yeah.
Like we always walk on the shade side.
It's so funny. Like to me, it represents death. Heat. Like whenever I feel the sun, I'm like, oh god. Like,
but okay, it's just probably limits. Like, I bet coming out of winter when you feel the sun, some days you're like, oh my god, it feels so good.
But truly,
I think my limit just goes a little higher of when it feels good.
My limit is 4 minutes. Like, and then after 4 minutes of being in that sun, I'm like, I'm so opposed to the sun. Like it's so it scares me, it hurts me. Like when we were on the beach recently, I was like, I'm sorry, we need to go behind that tree. Like it was like, because
now I'm more into it, because I'm like, well, I don't want to be in the sun all day, but it feels so good to me. So you're saying it doesn't feel good too for long?
Yeah, because it scares me so much. And it's so funny, the last time I went to the beach with my friend, he didn't drag him, didn't put any sunscreen on, because he does have skin that tans really well. I was reapplying so much, and I was still freaking out that it wasn't enough. Like I just the feeling of the sun, I was like, it's not enough. It's not enough.
It's mentally.
And so I kept reapplying. Then when we left, I was like looking at him, and he was like immediately getting a tan. And I looked in the mirror. I'm like, I'm pasty. Like I didn't get anything. And he was like, no, you reapplied like 48 times. But it was like the feeling is like, it can't be nothing. But with the sunscreen, it's like, and then I went and hid.
That was one little thing that people have worries about vitamin D deficiency as well. When they're like, because sunscreen's blocking those rays that actually help.
Oh, but you're still getting.
Yeah. So, it is. No, you are.
Yeah, you're right.
UV, you are literally blocking the light.
UVB is the one that does also break up the cholesterol.
Yeah,
and give you vitamin D.
That is some people being like, and I've just read doctor reports and of some study references that are like, it's not. Only if you're vitamin D deficient should you ever worry about that. Yeah. Like ultimately, they were like, you're still getting vitamin D from foods. You can supplement vitamin D. Like, don't not put on sunscreen so you can get vitamin D.
And like overall, what the science is like, cover yourself from the sun. Like, you know what I mean? It is like, we're back to that same thing, which is like, don't worry about vitamin D to not put on sunscreen.
Anyway,
I'm gonna go put some on right now.
Yeah, me too. Oh, one thing they gotta fix though. Some sunscreens leak into eye.
Oh
death
God,
eye.
and death eye,
Just
and then
burning and leaking, and then it just leaks for hours.
And some sunscreen gets on my glasses, and then my glasses are smudge.
So see, this is why we don't wear sunscreen. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I always
What?
wear it, but
We
I
always
always
do.
wear it, but I hate. There's some brands that like leak into my eyes.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
Yeah, I know.
They gotta figure that out.
Um,
And it doesn't taste good, but it does smell good. Oh, sunscreen smells good.
if
Like,
you're getting the Havana Nights or whatever,
yeah,
it's the baby
love
bananas.
that pina colada
Oh,
smell.
it's
you
so
know what I
good. It's
mean?
literally the smell of summer.
Definitely like
It's
so many
sexy.
volatile chemicals
Wait.
going into your nose
Yeah,
from that.
that one has oxybenzone coming out of the yin yang. The like
But-
banana hammock, baby banana
The
brown
way
one.
I'm conditioned to feel that smell, it is
Yeah.
like vacation.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, it's like that coral reefs are dying from that stuff.
Yeah,
so
true.
that's
Okay,
for
yeah, we
sure.
should stop
But and I don't want to say, which I said is like and I don't even want to say it, but I'm like, it smells sexy.
Really?
Okay,
to me.
am I canceled?
No,
Why would-
not cancel, but to me it smells like something you would eat versus something sexy.
Okay, wow. Okay, just that sun.
But you're right, I
Skin.
guess
Like
there's
there's
like a-
something about it that makes
Yeah.
me think.
Okay, you're right. Now that
Yeah.
you changed my mind.
But I'm trying to destigmatize tan. I'm trying to be like, no, what also is sexy? Someone covered in sunscreen.
Right.
And in a nerdy outfit. That's sexier than sun-kissed Havana nights.
All right, this has been a long episode.
Yeah, but it is worth it. I honestly, when I was researching sunscreen, was like, this is a controversial subject. And the facts can be tense.
Okay.
And we are
here
USF
we
Science,
are.
and I want this to make sense.
Oh my god. Well, on that note, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Both.
Bye.